Welcome to Faith Talks Wood Podcast. I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.
Hey, we're a podcast talks about everything from Jesus to joinery and a little bit of everything in between. Tom, I found something I've never, ever heard of this weekend, and it's really fascinating, and I can't get enough of it. It's called falconry. Have you ever heard of falconry?
What is it?
So what it is these guys or girls, these people will catch red-tailed hawks and different types of falcons, and they will catch them and train them to hunt. And then they'll go out on these hunt parties, and they'll have people, and they'll kick up rabbits and stuff, and the birds will go after and take out the rabbit, or they'll take squirrels out of trees, all kinds of stuff. I'd never heard of that before, and I ran across the video on YouTube. Long story short, I'm just getting off of being sick. I'm about 85%, 90%. So I was posted up a lot this last, 4 or 5 days, and I come across this video of this guy who's not far from me, just over in Columbus, who does falconry. So he'll catch a red-tailed hawk and then train it, and it becomes his kind of like a hunting dog. But it's fascinating.
Dude, I'm not sure if I'm more impressed by the fact that he can catch the red-tailed hawk or that he could train it to go hunt. I'm like, I couldn't do either one.
It's a whole science, man. And the way they catch them is kind of cool. They'll have these cages, and they'll put a couple mice in them. And on top of the cages, if you can imagine like fishing wire looping up out of the cage, and when the hawk comes down and tries to grab into the cage to get the mouse, it gets stuck on the wire, on like the fishing line, and then tries to get out. And then the guy that I watch, he's so delicate and very intentional with the birds that he'll go up to them and he'll put a hood over their head. It calms them down, and he'll get their foot unstuck, and he'll and then he'll take them home, and he'll train them, and he'll go through this whole process of getting the bird to trust him. And then they go out on hunts. It's fascinating, man. It's one of the coolest things. I've got a big red-tailed hawk that lives out in my back field, which I'm a little scared of because we're going to get ducks here this spring. And I'm just afraid that homeboy's going to come down and try to swoop a duck. But it's falconry. I'd never heard of it before, and I'm really intrigued by it.
No kidding. That's crazy. I'm back in North Carolina. My next door neighbor trained hunting dogs, and his personal dog that he had trained, so we lived on a dead end street that had like 7-8 houses, and we were all 2-acre plots. So imagine and down at the end, so 8 to 10 acres down to the end of the street. And then it goes back into the woods into another big 5-10 acre plot back there. He would take a dead squirrel and drag it down the street, go way back in the woods and everything. And then he'd come back and he'd tell his dog, sit, that dog, or heel, whatever his commands were. And then he would tell him to go get that thing. That dog would sprint 100 miles an hour, it seemed like, all the way down to this end of the street, go back in the woods, get that squirrel, come back, right, and drop it at his heels. It was phenomenal. Insane. And now he got out of the military, and that's what he does full time, is he trains people's dogs to hunt. And it's just fascinating. I can't even get my dog to sit and roll over. I mean,
right. Yeah. My dogs are a bunch of idiots, but they, dude, I couldn't believe either falconry. And they do like red-tailed hawk is probably one of the most popular, but they'll do all different kinds of like falcon type birds, and they'll train them up, and it's cool watching them. They'll go up and, they'll go up into a tree, and then they'll kick up a rabbit, and that thing will swoop out of the tree and then nosedive and come down on the rabbit and just take it out. But the really cool thing is watching it go into a tree for a squirrel. That thing will maneuver and jump around a tree and grab a squirrel with its talons.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's crazy. But Yeah, so falconry. If anybody listening has heard of that, let us know. But you have to just uh, YouTube it and watch some of the videos. It's pretty cool.
That's
So
cool.
yeah, man. Well, before we get into today's guest, just want to say thank you to the patron supporters. You guys are awesome out there. If you want to support us on Patreon, you can do so on patreon.com/Faith Talks Wood. Give us a 5-star review on Apple. It goes a long way to help people find the podcast. Pray for the podcast. And then if you need some sanding equipment, sanders, vacuum, dust extractors, sandpaper, go to surfprepsanding.com, use code FAITH at checkout, and you'll get 10% off, and that'll help the podcast out a little bit as well. And I just want to say again that the retreat registration is live for the Faith Talks Wood retreat. It's going to be happening here in Pennsylvania in October of 2025. So go check that out. So, Tom, who do we got on the podcast today?
Man, we got a fellow veteran, a guy I've been watching on Instagram for quite a while, and Mr. Chris Fuller from Woodshop. Man, welcome to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
I appreciate you guys having me on. First time doing one of these, but I'll ask some questions and I'll tell you whatever you need to know.
Yeah, so tell people where you're at.
Oh, I'm in wonderful New York, Southern Tier, right in the woods.
Yeah, we found before the podcast, he's about 2.5 hours away from me here in Pennsylvania, so not too far away.
Not at all. Just a little short distance there.
But you're in the good part of New York, not New York City.
Oh, yeah. That's why I say Southern Tier.
Oh, man.
Gotta be specific.
Yes, we are definitely in God's land here.
New York's a beautiful state. I think mentally, when people say New York, we automatically think New York City. But the rest of New York, up in the mountains and all, is just absolutely gorgeous. It is beautiful up there.
It really is. This is definitely God's country for sure.
Well, tell us a little bit about yourself. You know, kind of married, single, got kids.
Yeah,
what you do for work?
Married twice. On my second round, it's this one. Great story on this one. First one, not so good. I pretty much grew up by my grandparents, thought I was going to get married, and that was it. That's what God wanted. But I didn't believe in God then too much. That came a few years prior to my first marriage, but I wasn't strong in it. Met my current wife only because my grandmother told me I was going to marry her. Can't disappoint Graham, but she was right. She was right. So I ended up adopting her 2 boys. I had my daughter, and we've been married going on 10 years this Halloween. We got married on a Halloween.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah,
my grandmother married us.
Oh, wow.
When she said I was too cheap, that she had everything covered. She got ordained. We were getting married on the family land. And then she covered all the food, and she's like, "What do you got to say now?" I said, "Yes, Graham."
I feel like your grandma would be an awesome person to hang around.
She's the one that put the spirit in me.
Yeah, that is awesome.
I like to say she loved the spirit in me, but boy, my grandfather beat the spirit in me. Old World War II vet. So,
well, tell us a little bit how you came to be a Christian and what that journey has been like since you accepted the Lord up until now.
Growing up, I had a rough childhood with my, I call her my birth mother. I do love her, but she never wanted me. A lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, forced to go to church. I'm like, how can I believe in a God if he's letting me go through this? There is no God. Taking beatings to protect her. And then in 1998, June 1998, I decided I was joining the Army. Went into the Army about halfway through basic in Fort Sill, Oklahoma. Writing some letters back home. 2:30 in the morning. go to lay in my bunk, and I got hit in the face with a warm light, and all I heard was, "Everything's going to be okay." From that point forward, I started my journey to try to follow the Lord. Things were really, really rough. My first marriage was terrible. The woman was more of a Hollywood actress, spending a blue collar working man's money. Didn't have no care for me, no care for my daughter. Tried making amends with that, but that just didn't work. And that's when my journey really, really got to me. I met another woman, thought she was the one, saw visions of God. He pretty much threw me on the ground one day, and I was curled in the fetal position, and all I heard was, "Get out." So I decided that was my time to move forward. That's when I decided I'm not messing with anybody. I'm going to take care of myself, my daughter, and get closer to God. And I moved into an apartment complex. Woman came outside and said, "Are you going to be parked there long? That's my spot." And walked away. I looked at her. I'm like, "Lord, that is right there, wifey material." Just in a joke. Next thing you know it, I'm married to the woman.
That's
So,
amazing.
5'0" Italian woman. She's got strong faith. We're like best friends. My Graham knew what she was doing. Once again, of course, like all Grahams do. And we eventually moved down here in Franklinville from Buffalo, 2017. I really got into woodworking then, but I started to dabble a little bit before we moved out here. Tell the boys not to wrestle on the bed. What do? Wrestle on the bed. Broke the bed. I went to Home Depot, bought some 2x4s. I'm like, "There's your bed. That's all you're getting." Up until the youngest one left the house about 8 months ago, that's what he slept in. He would not let me build him a new one. He loved it.
Wow.
So that's when I really got into it. Started making stuff for people, just giving it out for free. And then when we got down here, I started working with some Amish, getting some free lumber. Started doing a lot more for people because it didn't cost me anything. It wasn't coming out of my family budget. And the word just started spreading. Now we're doing pretty good. I don't charge much because it's more of a hobby. And I just give to disabled people and fellow veterans in need. And of course, the wife. He gets everything first. So I use the shop for the Lord. When I give stuff to people and they thank me and they tell me that I got to take money, I say, "Well, you take it with the man upstairs, because if it wasn't for God, I wouldn't have had this material to give it to you. So
Amen.
you take it,
There you
you
go.
take it up with him." So
I think too often
like it.
we fail to remember that the little things like that, like the table saw in our shop or the stack of lumber that we have out there, was all a gift from God. God gave it to us and us to use it for His glory. And
amen to that.
that's awesome. Now, before we got started recording, you showed us a wooden cross, and so tell us a little bit
Yes.
about that and how you use your shop for ministry.
I don't know. I just building crosses came real easy to me. The first one I actually built was about, I think, 4 feet tall, with a beautiful base I made for it for a woman. She loved it so much. She mentioned it to her friends and they started coming. I just started giving them away, using scrap. And when I get people coming into my shop, they'll see the one I showed you guys and, "Oh, that's beautiful. How do I get one?" And I just make them for them and just tell them, this is all from God. I'm not a preacher. I'm not a teacher. I'm just a man on a mission to do God's work. And I'll tell you my story. And if you want to hear it, and you get free cross for listening to me babble on. So we have
I
fun.
like it.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm ashamed to say that I've never made a wooden cross in my shop.
I haven't either.
But you remember,
Well, if you want them, give me your addresses after this, or DM me on Instagram. I'll send you one.
dude, I've got the wood and I have the skills. I just never have taken the time. It's like,
Yeah.
you know, but you remember, what's his name that we had on? Guy that lives in, I think, Kansas, Sola Gratias Woodwork.
Yep.
He
yep.
made a bunch of crosses in his shop as well that were really beautiful. And I don't know
Yeah,
why
I
I've
remember
never
that.
taken the time to make one. I don't know. Hadn't. I need to do that.
I have one. There's a guy from our church who passed away a decade ago, I guess now. And he had a similar ministry. He would make these crosses and he would give them to people in the church and give them out to people. He'd have a bunch in his truck. And like, if he was at Home Depot and saw somebody, he'd give them a cross or whatnot. And,
I do these also.
Oh, wow. Did you do that on a laser or did you carve that?
Yeah. No, that's laser.
Wow.
Oh,
Then,
nice.
then I'll put a scripture up top for somebody.
Now, did
No,
you
hand-
draw that
no,
artwork?
No. I got that. I just Googled up images of Jesus with the thieves on the cross, and that one came up, and it just hit me in the face.
Yeah, that's nice.
So that one's John 3:16 right there. I'll do whatever anybody wants, and if they don't have a specific, I got the Bible app on my phone. I'll just open it up and hit something random and give it to them, and it touches their heart.
That's
There
awesome.
you go.
So I let the Lord do the talking.
Love it. What laser do you have?
The X-Tool S1.
Oh, you have the S1. Nice.
Yes.
I've got the D1 Pro. I was one of the first ones. If you remember when X Tool came on the market 3-4 years ago, I jumped on that bandwagon. They were, had a sale on them, and I jumped on it and got one, and I love it. It does what I want it to. But the S1, those are real nice.
Yeah, I got the D1 Pro 20 watt with the extension rails, but I wanted an upgrade.
Yeah.
I'm actually selling my D1 Pro in a couple days to a guy, and I'm just whatever he wanted to give me for it. That's what he's getting for. So
Yep.
it's not about the money. I'm about, like I said, touching people. I go to the store and I'll come up with some corny joke about God, and they'll go, "Oh, you believe in God?" And then we start just talking,
There you go.
just random people.
I love it.
Like I'll go up to someone like, "Hey, did you know when God made me, he made me out of a box of spare parts he had by him." Right? He got me all made up, and he's like, "Chris, we got 2 lines here. We got one for the brain. As you can see, there's a lot of people there, and there's one for the train. There's nobody in line." I'm like, "Oh yeah, this is easy. I'm going to the train." Then they start laughing, and we start talking about God, and we have a good time. Just in the middle of the grocery store.
Yeah.
I love that.
Sometimes I'll have God actually steer me. I feel him steer me towards a certain person, and I can come up with something stupid that I learned from my teachers from my gram. Like, "Oh yeah, I went fishing with Jesus this one time, and he told me to walk out on the water a few feet, maybe about 10 feet." And he started laughing, and I'm like, "Why are you laughing? You gave me the power to walk on water. How's that funny?" Then I got ate by this big fish. And man, it smelled inside there. And I don't even know how long it was in there. And he spit me out on his land, and there's Jesus laughing at me. How'd that smell? And they go, "Oh, I know that passage from the Bible." And then we just start talking.
That's
And
wild.
then sometimes they'll thank me and say, "I needed that. I'm having such a bad day." So
That's all. There's a book
love
I read earlier this year by Willie Roberts. It's called Gospeller. And the whole premise of the book is that right there. It's like starting to, saving people one conversation at a time, and just starting conversations wherever you're at to open up the opportunity to share the gospel. And that's awesome, man. I love that.
And I do have, what do they call that? Memory loss from the military. I got like what are they? TBI, traumatic brain injury.
Oh,
I got pretty rocked over in Afghanistan a
oh
few
man.
times, a few more times than I can remember, literally.
Yeah.
So I get my Bible verses every day. I see your guys on Instagram. I read every day. I try to remember the stuff. Doesn't happen all the time, but I can. In those moments, stuff will just pop in, and I know the Lord's putting it there for
That's
that person for that reason, and I
yeah,
can definitely feel it.
that's the Holy Spirit, my brother.
Yes,
Amen.
sir.
So
That's
you
awesome.
were in the army, and you
Yes.
served in Afghanistan. So
Yes.
what unit were you in? Where were you stationed
I
at?
was I was quartermaster. I was bounced around a lot because nobody liked my mouth. I knew what I could say to who I could say it, and they didn't like it because the higher ups always love me because I've got that old school work ethic, and all the higher ups loved it, but they couldn't keep me around long enough because of my mouth.
Oh
So
man.
I ended up bouncing around a little bit, but we made it to Afghanistan, and I did fuel. I fueled all the Blackhawks and Chinooks and whatever else came in from the locals flying those old blue. Well, I don't even know what they were called. They were old Russian helicopters. Guys coming in smoking cigarettes with and the tanks on the inside where they're at. Oh man,
Uh,
you guys are a flying bomb.
Uh, what
But I
what?
also hooked up with the special forces. I spent probably out of the 16 months I was over there, probably 14 months out in the field.
Oh wow.
That's what I wanted. I wanted to be out there. I didn't want to be around anybody being too relaxed. And I was hooked up with special forces. We had the third and the sixth unit in there when I was over, and they wouldn't let me go because I would do their jobs with them and take over their guard duties when they were out on missions or they were coming back and they were tired. I'm like, I'll take it. I'll take it because I was going home. I wasn't playing around. So
Yeah. Man. What base were you stationed at?
I was in Goresh. It was a FOB, forward operating base.
Uh-huh.
We were stationed in Kandahar. That was
Yep.
the main base.
Yep.
But I went there I was there maybe a total of a month and a half. They didn't like me back there. Command Sergeant Major, every time I came in, he's like, all right, how long before I send you back out? I was like, well, we got about 2 hours before the next flight. What do you think? He's like, get on it.
What and which base in America was your unit out of?
I was all, like I said, I got kicked out of everything. I was in Fort Drum. I was at Fort Lee. I was in Fort Sill. It's up in Washington State. I don't even remember the name of that base, but they kicked me around a little bit.
I'm trying to remember the name of that base up in Washington. I know where you're talking about. It's
Yeah, I can't remember it offhand.
Fort Riley. No, that's not right. Fort Riley's in Kansas. No, no.
Yeah, I couldn't even tell you. It was too many.
Yeah. But
But I did my time. I got out and they begged me to come back in. And I'm like, do you really want me back in? No. Then the recruiters back here tried to get me to come in. And I was like, why don't you call? I had the names and everything then, but like, why don't you call such and such and see if it's a good idea? They come back and call me an hour later. Yeah, you might want to just stay out. But I couldn't go back in I wouldn't pass any PT tests or anything because I was beat up pretty bad.
man,
Yeah, I've had three shoulder surgeries, one back surgery. They want to do neck, knees, and feet, and I'm done.
wow.
man.
I'm done.
That's a Lewis McCord.
Yeah. Fort
Yeah,
McCord.
that's it.
Yep.
McCord.
I have one of my pastors at the church I went to back in North Carolina. You know, our mission at Manna, was to put a church at every single military base around the world, because we were right there by Fort Bragg, which is now Fort Liberty, but and Pope Air Force Base. And so many people would come in and then they'd leave and they go elsewhere and then not have a church home. And so we started planting churches strategically at military locations around the world. And I forget how many countries we're in and how many different locations they're at now. But Riley, my pastor back then, was going to be going to Washington State and then ended up going to Virginia to the Virginia Beach area there, where all the Navy and Army and all, what's that area? The Tidewater area. And so he's up there now, but they are planning on planting a church up there in Washington.
Nice.
Yeah.
They need it up there.
Yeah. Needed everywhere.
Oh yeah, definitely everywhere. But we need real churches. We don't need these mega churches that are out there preaching for the money.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Which
Amen.
you see a lot of that these days.
Yeah. Well, and the term mega church, like if you technically you would consider Manna probably a mega church in comparison to like the little Baptist church that I grew up in South Carolina, because of the fact that like we had our main church there in Fayetteville, but then in the Fayetteville region, we had 5 satellite locations where in each of the satellite locations might have anywhere, some of them might have 100 people, some of them might have 200-300, but it was so that people didn't have to drive 30-40 minutes in. So we kind of planted them around in the small towns that surrounded Fayetteville. But then one of the pastors was still active duty military, got stationed. I forget where it was they expanded to first, but then God just spoke to him, said, I want you to plant a church. And so they have their whole vision is multiply. And it is, so they have one in Colorado Springs. They have one in down in Florida, where I think it's 3rd Special Forces is down there. I can't remember which one in Florida, one in Virginia. They have one at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, one in Kansas. There's like 10 or 12. None of them are huge. You've never probably heard of Manna Church, but I guess you would now consider it a mega church in the terms of volume if you added them all up. But it's just a bunch of little churches planted around strategically with a mission to save the military, and as they get stationed from one place to the next, that they would have a church home when they arrived, but yeah,
that's pretty cool. Yeah. So I see your shop there. You're talking a little bit before how the Amish helped you build it and stuff, and it looks like, is it spray foamed?
Oh yeah. Nice. I just got that done last year.
Okay. So what size is your shop?
24 by 32.
24 by 32. Nice. That's a nice size.
A nice size. Yeah. Well, the wife ordered me to do it. So we had a home about 5 minutes from here. It was up in the mountains more. We were on a mountainside. It was all slanted. And I had a 3-car garage. The kids, 2 of the kids got the itch to move out. So we had the one left, and he wasn't going to leave right away. He's on the lower end of the spectrum for autism. So we sold that place because someone said, hey, how about this amount? We're like, yeah, right. This place ain't worth that. Oh, it's worth it to us. I'm like, okay. So we found this place, and it's 12.5 acres of flat land instead of being on a hillside.
Yeah.
And we moved in November 2020. By December, my wife said, if you don't have a shop before April, you're going in the septic tank. And all I would do was pace, wait for an Amish person to call me and say, hey, I need a ride, or hey, can you come help me build this, or whatever. It was going nuts. And I bought the material. My buddies came and we had it built in a day.
Man, that's incredible.
Like I said, God has blessed me more than I could ever ask for. Starting with, my wife. I mean, she's just amazing. Then he put me down here. I'm like 20 minutes from my father. He's down here. And then I'm surrounded by Amish. I've got a guy down the road. He's a farmer. Neil, he's like I call him my little brother, even though he's 20 years older than me, and he's 6'4"-ish.
Oh, wow.
Big farmer guy. But he's got my back. I got his. The Amish, same thing. It's like God's blessed me so much. That's why I just do what I can for anybody and everybody.
Yeah.
Just you come here, you want something made, I'll make it for you. How much? I don't know. It's between you and the man upstairs, not me.
Yeah.
So,
well, I know you have a big Harvey table saw like mine. I'm a little jealous because you got the big eye rip fence and I don't have it. But what other tools you got in your shop? Tell us which it's like.
Well, the big eye was kind of a blessing.
Man, that thing's nice.
Yeah, I came into a little bit of extra money plus saving, and the wife's like, "Well, it's on sale," and I'm like, "Wait, are you allowing me to buy a new fence?" She's like, "Yeah, go ahead." I'm like, "Oh yeah," so I jumped on that.
See, your grandma, she knew what she was doing. I mean, she gave you a wife that tells you to build a shop and then tells you to buy a tool. That is a good woman right there, buddy.
Well, there's always something behind buy the tool. Like I wanted the domino from Fest Tools so bad. I don't know why. I just wanted it. And she's like, well, you have the money saved up. Go ahead and buy it. Like, you got to be kidding me. You're going to okay this and not get mad at me? She's like, no. Well, I got it. And she's like, okay, well, this is the list I want built with that machine right now. I'm like, I knew there was something behind that. But yeah, I've got the Harvey. Actually, that was a blessing right there because I did have all my tools from my other shop. I had Laguna 3 horsepower table saw. I had a Grizzly 15-inch heavy duty planer. I had the Laguna, I think it was a 1412 bandsaw. And when we moved here, I didn't have a shop. We had a shed, and we got hosed on this house in the beginning. So I had to sell all my tools. Well, not all, but most of my tools just to make room and pay for stuff in the house that we didn't know about. And slowly I built back up. The Harvey was the first one I bought because once again, it was on sale. And she said, go ahead. And it'll look nice because it's got the gold on there. It's like, no, it's tin. They call it tin. So I got that. Then I moved up and got the that baby Grizzly bandsaw. So I don't really do bandsaw work much. Then I got the Jet drill press. That one was awesome. I got one. It didn't work too well. Jet sent me another one and told me not to send the other one back. So my father got it.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
And he really needed one. And he fixed it. He said all it needed was a little grease.
Oh, wow.
He fixed that. And then I've had the same Bosch. I don't know what they call it. It's like a radial arm saw, I guess. 12-inch. I've had that for 5-6 years now. That thing's a workhorse. And then a bunch of Milwaukee tools here and there, drills and sanders. And then I got another Festool sander. Then I got the Festool track saw on a trade.
Oh, wow.
That was a good trade because I also got enough money to buy what I thought was myself a grill, but the wife took it. She's like, you got that new tool, I get the grill. So I lost the grill on that one. But I can grill ribs on it once in a while.
There you go.
She likes that. Other than that, I'm not allowed to touch it. Scared of the Italian woman.
Yeah.
But yeah, then
Man.
we got the X-Tool S1. That one does a lot of work for people. I don't really make any money with that thing, so that was a hefty price. But once again, on sale, money was saved up, so why not?
Yep. Now I know
Yeah.
I've
I like
seen
it.
you build like furniture and cabinets and stuff. What's your favorite thing to build? What do you like building the most?
Whatever makes somebody happy. I have no specific. I mean, I'm not a big into the cabinetry. I don't like it too much. If I get, somebody say, "Hey, I need a whole kitchen," I sell them for an Amish guy. I'm like, "Hey, you go to a guy that knows how to do it properly and loves doing it." So I hook him up. I do the little stuff that he doesn't want to do because he knows I hate it.
Yeah.
So, but I'll build whatever anybody comes and asks me to do, and I try to make him as happy as I can.
That's cool, man.
And
I
I'm
Very good.
all YouTube trained.
you what?
Yeah.
I'm all
YouTubers.
YouTube trained. Watching all the YouTubers.
Yeah.
That's how I learned most of it. But my father was a carpenter, so it came, pretty natural.
Kind of got a little bit of that. Yeah. Absolutely. So what you got in the shop now? What you got working on?
Nothing at the moment. We've had a rough patch here. We had to put one of our dogs down. She was gonna be 10 this month. And then 2 days after we put her down, my father-in-law went home to the Lord.
Oh man, sorry
And
about that.
then 2 days after that, my deck fell.
Oh my
Oh man.
So the Lord was testing us.
Oh.
But my father-in-law was ready to go to the Lord. He was telling me, I just want to die in my own home, but I need to go home to the Lord. His body just gave out.
Yeah. That's the tough thing. It's like we all are going to die one day. I mean, it's whether it's, getting hit by a car or having a heart attack or whatever and dying too young or whether it's when we get older and going of natural causes. But it doesn't make it any easier when you lose a loved one. But like my stepdad, when he passed away, it's been 2 years now. Like he was just adamant. He's like, it's my time. I'm ready to go. I'm ready to go home to the Lord. I've had a good long life. He was 86, I think, when he passed away, 85, 86. And he said, I've had a good long life and I'm ready to go. I'm going to heaven. And same thing with my papa. I think he was 89 when he passed. And but for those of us that are still here on earth, it doesn't make it easier because we're losing somebody that we care about. But the reality is now they don't have to put up with all this crap on earth anymore. Like they're going to a much better place. So it really should be a party or a celebration than it should be our mourning. But it's tough, man. I had all four of my grandparents and my parents alive when I was 31 years old. And in 18 months, I lost all four grandparents and my dad. Like every 3 months, I was going to a funeral. It was just a rough patch. And my dad was only 51. I mean, he was young.
He's 51 years young.
Yeah. So that's why I say you gotta, people always ask me like, how are you doing today? And my answer is always, I woke up on this side of the grass. It's a good day.
Oh yeah.
If you don't think so, try the alternative.
Yep. Every day above ground's a good day.
It is.
So, the Lord wakes you up, you can make the most of it.
That's exactly right, man.
Yep. Absolutely.
Give thanks in all circumstances.
Amen to that.
Yep. So Tom, you got any woodworking going on over there yet?
Yeah, man. Well, I don't know if you call it woodworking, scroll saw work. I went through, I was like, because I get frustrated healing up from the sternum. And while it is astronomically better than it was a month ago, it still hurts. And I'm trying to be smart and not lift something heavy and, do what the recommendations are. But at the same time, it's like I want to do some stuff. So I went through my shop and just kind of organized all my scraps. I was like, I could make something out of scraps. I found every piece of walnut scrap I had, every piece of maple, and just kind of put together like, what can I make? And so I started a scroll saw art project that I'm working on. And then my wife made some homemade bread, and she's done this before, but she hadn't done it in a while. And all of a sudden she just got the hankering for bread, and she made some homemade bread last week and then made it again this week. And then, but the problem with it is when you go to cut it, like, love my wife, the bread tastes amazing. Like, just you put some butter on that, a little bit of that homemade jam, and you're in heaven. But it's hard to cut a consistent slice. And so I got to thinking today, I was like, I got these scraps here. I'm going to make a bread slicer. And so there's a couple different styles. And have you ever seen a bread bow?
Yes,
So it essentially looks like
I'm intrigued.
So think about if you took your bandsaw blade and cut like a 12-inch piece out of it, and then you take and create a wooden handle that looks like a bow and it's got a gap, the thickness you want the slice. So if you want a half-inch slice or a quarter-inch slice, but then the blade is screwed in. Now, you buy these, I shouldn't say a bandsaw blade. That's a bad example. It's more like it's got the tooth spacing of like like a resaw blade, but it's just I want to say they're like 12 inches long, kind of like when you buy the stiff blades to go on a handsaw, the replacement ones, a hacksaw, except for it has a cut like a resaw blade on a bandsaw. And so it's bolted to
I'm
the
looking
handle.
at one right now.
Yeah, so I was like, so I think I'm gonna order some of those blades and make them, because she gets all frustrated with trying to slice the bread because it is hard to slice. But then there's another style where you just take your normal knife, you basically build a block that has flutes in it, and then you could lay the loaf in there and then cut it. And so I was debating, do I want something big and bulky like that in the kitchen, or do I want to try making, because either one of them would be a simple project, and I got tons of small scrap I could do, so I don't have to pick up anything heavy, and I think my wife will appreciate it. So I'm either going to order some of those blades and make one of those, and I might just make both of them and see which one she likes the best. But yeah, I know that's an odd project because I typically make
cool
furniture or, cabinets, but it was just, I got to thinking about it because she was frustrated with the slicing, because when you go to slice it, some of them come out nice and straight, and then other ones come out all angled and crooked, and I personally like a thinner slice than I do a real big, thick, bulky slice.
You strange man.
Well, now it depends. If I'm gonna put some butter and jam on it, it could be a little thicker. But if I want to make a sandwich, I don't like the big old thick slices. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
I'm looking at those. I might make one for my wife. My wife actually just in the last 2 weeks has made a couple loaves of homemade bread too.
Dude,
She's
all right.
never done that, and it's like,
Let's have a bread.
That's why I'm intrigued.
We can have a bread bow competition. See who makes the nicest bread bow.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to cheat a little bit, Crafted Elements actually has a template for it.
Oh, really?
For a bread bow?
Yeah. They got a template for that.
Oh, I don't need a template for something that simple.
Well,
if you're going to do epoxy, you would.
Or if you just want to make it look perfect.
Right. I could laser out a template.
I kind of feel like Chris is doubting my abilities
to
make a perfect bread bow without it. I'll make my own template, man.
You're doing it. You're doing it for the wife. It's got to be perfect.
I can make it perfect without it. But
I don't use those templates, but just throwing it out there.
Nah, they for something that simple, I just typically make my own templates, and
Yeah.
so. But they do have some really nice. The nice thing about theirs is most of theirs are all acrylic. But for something I'm gonna make one time, or at least I think I'm gonna make one time, I'm just gonna go out there and grab a scrap piece of MDF, make a template out of that. You know.
Nah, I'm gonna do mine by hand. I'm gonna just freehand it on the bandsaw, I think.
You could do that too.
I'm terrible.
The only thing that matters on it is that the mount
The
for the
gap is
blade,
even.
and yeah,
Right.
And the gap is really just so that you have a gauge for how thick you want the slice. You know.
Yep.
So, but I'd never seen one of those until I was trying to get ideas for a bread slicer, and I initially, you know how Rockler and Woodcraft, they sell the cheese slicer kits. So I was thinking they probably sold like the blade and stuff. And so that's when I stumbled across that, and I was like, man, I never have seen one of these before. And they're probably everywhere, and I just never paid attention. But
I never heard of one. So I'm about to make one too. Well, whenever I get out of the shop, it's not
a simple
30
little project out of a scrap piece of lumber, you know?
Yeah.
So
Yeah, very simple.
awesome.
I'm surprised my wife hasn't asked for one, because we get she bakes bread, and then we get I get fresh baked bread from my Amish buddy's wife, because I'm always taking care of her.
That's another level.
Oh, there ain't no bread like it.
No.
There ain't no bread like it.
we
It's
have
just
a
so clean and fluffy, and just
yeah.
But I have the problem cutting it too, so.
Yeah, it is. We have a lady from Hawaii that lives here that has a bakery called Luna Kai Bakery, and dude, their bread is off the charts. They make a bunch of different flavors, and but the nice thing is, you go in there and you buy a loaf, and they've got this commercial slicer. You tell them how thick you want it, they'll slice it all right there for you. Come home with a perfectly sliced loaf of bread.
That's what I'm talking about. Funny bread story. Older couple from my church. They live a couple miles down the road. The wife came to me at church one week, and she's like, "Hey, I'm having issues with my computer, and if you being an IT manager, she's like, can you come over and take a look at it?" And of course, they supported me when I was in ministry back in the day, and they amazing family. And the one thing she's known for is she can cook like anything. She's about one step off the porch from being Amish. You know what I'm saying? And her bread is like renowned. Everybody knows about her bread. And so she knows that I like her bread, and my wife likes her bread. And so I get done fixing her computer, getting it going and everything back up. And I wouldn't take any money. I'm like, I don't need your money. She's like, well, you're not leaving here without some bread then. I said, you're not going to twist my arm. I mean, and so my wife started trying to make some bread as well. And it's funny because I said something to that lady. She's in her 80s. Her daughter is our pastor's wife. And I said to her, Judy, how does your mom make that bread so good? And she's like, nobody knows. There's no recipe. It's all by feel to her.
I know.
And so
Isn't that amazing?
Just get stuff out and just like throw stuff in a thing, and then there it goes. And the bread is perfect every time. And man, I want some bread.
Dude, I'm telling you.
How about the fresh made glazed donuts?
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know if you guys watch Duck Dynasty, but Uncle Si, he was challenged with, I forget who it was now, a couple guys, and fresh glazed donut eating contest. Well, that would be me. I think he pounded like 24 or 32 or something like that. And well, I was baked 12, and it literally takes me about a minute and a half to get home. Well, we'll just say I saved 2 for the family.
Yeah.
They go down like cold water on a hot summer day. Oof.
Oh yeah.
I'm not big into donuts or anything like that, but those I can't say no to.
Well, that's like what's it? Krispy Kreme used to do the thing to where if the light was on,
The hot
you get the free
now.
donut. Right, the hot free donut, and that's fantastic. I mean, you just, like, super hot, melts in your mouth, but I don't think they do that anymore. I don't think that's
I
the
don't think
thing.
they're doing free. They still have the hot now sound, but yeah,
Yeah.
I love homemade baked stuff. But speaking of bread and homemade baked stuff, remember Tim from Tim's Hobby Shop that we had
Yep.
on? His daughter has an Instagram, and I follow her because she had listened to our podcast, and her Instagram is called the May Flower. It's the underscore MAY _flower, as in like bread flour. And dude, like next time we go up to the Northwest to see my wife's sister, I'm going to get some of her baked goods. Like, go check her out, man.
Oh, man.
You'll be hungry. I'm telling you, she makes some of the most amazing stuff, man. But yeah, man, we talking about food. I got ribs on the smoker out there, man.
Yeah. So I still haven't done any woodworking. However, I can't get enough of this Bible rebinding hobby.
Dude,
So
that Bible you sent me the picture of is awesome.
yeah,
I'm
so
impressed. I have a hankering now to want to try leather working because I couldn't believe it.
yeah, I've got the one right here. This
That's
is just
so
a
nice.
cowhide.
Oh wow, that's beautiful.
But yeah, I it's so cold here, just like, Chris, where you're at, it's so cold that and my shop isn't heated. I just don't want to be out in the shop when it's this cold out. And so I collect Bibles. I've got 20 something Bibles and I read through all of them, and a lot of them are just cheap Bibles. Just I find on Amazon for $10, $15 or something. And I've always wanted to try my hand at rebinding. I've got 3 Bibles that I've had rebound that, needed I used so much that the spines are breaking and stuff. And so I bought all the stuff to do it, and I watched probably 100 hours worth of YouTube videos on how to do it, and I just started trying it. My first one is up here. It didn't turn out. I mean, it's fine. It's functional. It's going to hold together. And then didn't turn out too good. And then every one that I've done since then has just gotten better and better. But the one you're talking about is right here. I'll grab that and show Chris. But yeah, man, I'm enjoying this this hobby. It's fun.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And I mean, I know leather smells when you engrave it, but the other thing you could do is take your laser and yeah, dude, that is gorgeous. I mean, that's a beautiful. I don't
That
know
is.
anything about leather, but that's a beautiful piece of leather there.
Yeah,
That does look beautiful.
yeah, it smells good too. Just the smell of leather.
Oh, I know.
Yeah.
But you could engrave onto
Oh, yeah.
the leather with your laser.
Yep.
And make like a personalized, like that'd be a really nice gift to somebody for Christmas or something. You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I have engraved leather before. It stinks like high heavens.
Oh, it does.
Yes, it does.
It's a open the garage door and put the big shop fan out and
Yeah.
But yeah, so I got into doing this and I've got it down, the glue that you use, the PVA glue, it's very similar to wood glue. It dries pretty quick. And so, or like at least sets up to a point where you can continue working. And so I can bust out a Bible in 3 hours, and so my problem is the slowing down because like the one, I guess it's this one, it turned out really good, but I forgot a step that isn't integral to the integrity of the Bible, but it's just a step to help it shape well. And I was just so excited to do it, just getting into it, and I skipped that step, and then I kicked myself going back, like I should have done that. But yeah, man, it's fun. I enjoy it, and I've got several people that want me to rebind their Bibles, and let me get through my stack and get to a point where I feel comfortable with doing somebody else's Bible because like this Bible here, this is this one's my everyday Bible. Every morning, every night, I'm reading in it, I'm writing in it, and it means a lot to me. And so I don't, so this is the latest one I did because I wanted to make sure if I do, my favorite Bible, that it's not going to ruin it. But so I'm enjoying it. It's so far so good, and it's something I could do the way our house is set up. I can see the TV in the living room from the dining room table, and so my wife can be on the couch. I can be in the dining room. We could be watching a show together, and I'll be working on other stuff and doing that. And yeah, so far so good. So
That's cool, man.
That's the update. I think I talked about this last week, so I'll have posted a picture on Instagram on the page about it. But I'll post some more as I continue to do it. But yeah, so that's the update
That's
from
cool, man.
my little rebinding corner.
Man, well, you're doing a good job on it, for sure.
I appreciate it. It's fun. So very good. Well, Chris, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And it's getting late here. I gotta be up. I got an hour drive in the morning, so I like to try to get to bed at a decent time. But where can people find you on the Instagrams?
At Fuller's Woodshop.
Fuller's Woodshop. We'll link that in the description below on the podcast. And I really, really thank you for coming on and sharing your story and being vulnerable to how God has directed you and turned you and used you over the years, and continue to be obedient to that, because that's going to be a part of your story every day going forward. And I love hearing that you're being obedient to his calling for your life. So well done, sir, and thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
I appreciate it.
Yeah,
It's
man.
been fun.
Very good. Well, until next week, I'm Will from Flat Woodworks.
And I'm Tom from Mountain Valley Maker.